All right. Well, welcome to the show today. Thanks for joining me, everyone. My guest today is Mauro Bex. He's a high performance coach based in Lisbon, Portugal. And Mauro is the founder of Manifesto 108, which is a coaching service that mainly works with professional athletes, creatives, and entrepreneurs. And the thing I like about what Mauro does is that unlike some coaches who just sort of pump people up with motivation, which is only a temporary thing and eventually fades, Mauro focuses on fundamental principles and core habits so that peak performance basically becomes a state for his clients consistently rather than just relying on temporary motivation. So his motto is be what it takes, which means aligning physical, mental, and emotional aspects to bring out the best of what his clients already have inside themselves. So I wanted to bring Mara on the show to find out really why he works as a coach, why we need coaches, how he helps his clients, and basically what we can learn from his 15 plus years of experience. So, welcome to the show, Mara.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No worries, glad to have you here. So I wanted to start with basically your career. So you're a high performance coach. So I was wondering if you could first of all just define exactly what that is.
Yeah, sure. So high performance coaching, it might seem a little bit broader, but basically is when you are able to bring to your life in every aspect the best you have inside yourself. Family, business, colleagues, friends, everything that you do, approach it with a more conscious way, sort of saying. So, and as you said in the beginning, I tend to focus more on professional athletes, and it's very interesting and I've been learning a lot working with people like that, and also creative people, entrepreneurs, because well, I think it's interesting that you also narrow a bit the kind of people you want to work with. That gives you a different window to work. And when you go more specific, you get better results as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Niching down makes sense. So why do people actually need coaches? Because you're talking about professional athletes, these sort of
Yes.
high performers who to normal people looking at say a professional athlete, they'd
Yeah.
already think they're already a high performer and they've kind of already got it all figured out. So why do people, especially at like the top of their game, actually need coaches?
It's interesting to work with professional athletes because we have a stereotype about an athlete, which is they are in control of everything and they are just a person like you and me. So they have fears, self-doubt, even if they perform weekly at a very high level, and that's their life, they still have all these things. So my work is to develop together with them habits, specific things, because each one of us is different. We all have different backgrounds. So there are different things that will affect you or me. I lived things that you didn't, and vice versa. So it's important to know the background of the person, develop with time trust, because for me that's key as well. The person with you, who you work with trusts you, and also you set goals together. Of course, he is the one or she is the one that is going to set the goal, but you are there along the way always to somehow guide and help. The choice is always made by the athlete or the entrepreneur, etc. But you are there to give them tools that they can use consistently and throughout their entire life. Because one of the big, I don't know if mistake will be the right word, but one of the big mistakes that some people do is assuming that you will work with an athlete and it's just his job. But then you don't know the background of the family. You might have parents that are complicated, or a brother or a sister that has some sort of problem in life, and this affects them. They're emotional. So when they go every weekend to perform, that thing is there in the back of your head. So when you start to develop habits there are key habits, and that you start to do them every day, every week. Preparation, family, and all the aspects of your life. Then you are working your life as a whole. You are not just going to the profession. And if you just go there, after a while, for sure, you will miss the work will not flow the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely seen that. You can't just be switched on in one area. You've got to have every area sort of working holistically together and
You
sorting
have
it out.
exactly. You have to
And
sort out the thing. You have to somehow, the intention is that the person with time, just to give you an example, for example, you are very good doing the habits and preparation to your game, and then you are driving one day, and then someone else stops the car in front of you, you get annoyed, you start to honk and curse or whatever, and calm down, wait. And so that aspect doesn't matter, the way you react, instead of being in control of your emotions. That's very important. It's the small things that you start to work and to be more aware that will then influence the big things. So if I can give a sort of advice, is that you go to the details, you go to the apparently small and sometimes unnecessary things, and from there you build up, and then it will naturally affect all the big and the big aspects of your life, definitely, because then you already have the mechanism to change, to shift. You already developed the habit to know what you want to replace. It's
absolutely.
like emotion, then you say, okay, it will always be there, your emotion, but then what do I want to feel when this emotion just just happens? And then you start, before the event happens, you say, okay, I don't like my reaction to this situation. How do I want to feel there? And then you start to feed yourself with that feeling. And then with time, when you feel the emotion, you will feel it, but then you say, okay, I don't want to be like that. I train myself to feel this way. So after a while, you will no longer react. You will be in total control of your actions. Of course, it's easy to talk,
Easy to talk.
but the principle is this. Is like I was reading in the book of I forgot his name. Sorry, Ryan Holiday. Obstacle is the way. That many times he's talking about stuff and he gives examples and he says, well, again, it's simple, not easy,
Yes.
and that's how things are.
Yeah,
At
I
the core.
believe that for sure. And I like what you talk about. It's always the small things that add up over time. One of my
Yeah.
favorite books is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, which basically talks about that. It's not the big things that you do. It's always the little things that you just do every day that always compound in the long term to give you results. So I definitely believe that.
Exactly.
And I guess taking a bit of a step back, I'm
Sure.
interested to know why you wanted to become a coach in the first place. Like, what got you interested in this? Because there's actually an interesting story that you told on a blog post a while ago about where you had a close family member who you felt like they had a lot of artistic potential and that they could have done all these great things, but
Yeah.
they tended to focus on the negatives and they never sort of pursued that artistic side, and you felt like they didn't live up to their potential and it was because they had the wrong mindset. So I'm curious, is something like that the reason why you got into coaching, because you sort of saw that opportunity that close family member never took and that you didn't want that for yourself and you wanted to make sure that you would take advantage of opportunities? Was there something like that, or was there another reason?
I would say that examples like that and situations like that in my life, they definitely helped, because as we were speaking in the prior to the interview, um, I was born and raised in Portugal, and here, as there were many years of fascism, what happened is that all generations, they kept a more negative mentality and an approach to life which made them be okay with a lot of things that were not okay. So they accepted easily the way things were. And this this thing we have all inside ourselves of the need to change, because there are moments in your life that you have those clicks like, no, I have to change, I have to do something different. They hold back because in the back of your head it was just not possible. That's how they grew up. So then my generation already started to shift many things, but still bringing a lot of that along the way. But you start to cut those strings, and yeah, that somehow is an opportunity, because at a point, if you are surrounded by people like that and you let yourself go, you are in the middle of it and you will become that. So it was important to change and to take like a step back and do things in a different way. So I didn't think originally back then like, oh, coaching, that's what I'm gonna do, uh, because it was a sort of job or profession that it's kind of new in the concept, even if it's not, because you always had mentors and wiser people that somehow they did this kind of job, but now it's like, boom, I expanded a lot and everyone now is a coach. But
Everyone's a coach on Instagram.
yeah, but yeah, that definitely helped. And also my background of study at a point what I was learning, because, and probably we'll talk a bit about that, in a while. I have a background of yoga, of pre-classical yoga, which is not so known in mainly in English-speaking countries, but in Portugal, Brazil, South America, and now also in the US, it's starting to grow. And what happens is that this study I did of this ancient philosophy, if I think of it now, it's a lifestyle. It's a philosophy of life. So many of the concepts associated with coaching, they're there. And that for me was fascinating thing as I was growing professionally. And when I came across the coaching aspect, and then I was like, wait, in a way, I already do a lot of this stuff. But at the same time, there were other aspects that were missing there, naturally, because it's a philosophy. So it's like I was already in the path of doing it without knowing. And I guess then things just took the natural course they had to take.
Yeah.
It's sort of
I love that. Yeah, that's a good background, and you were sort of alluding to what um, your sort of past experience and what you studied. So it's a good segue to move to that sort of area, because I think in the early 2000s, that's when you started studying this DeRose method, if I'm correct, and it sounds like that's kind of a framework for a lot of the stuff you teach today with your own coaching service. So I was wondering if you could just explain briefly what this
Yeah,
DeRose method is and how you sort of came about
sure.
going into that.
Yeah, it was when I was young. I guess at the time I was like 19 or 20 when I gave it a try. It was my mother. She was taking yoga classes in a gym. And for me at the time, I was like late ending my teenage years, entering like adulthood. And for me, I had no idea what yoga was. I had no concept of it. Uh, and then she came home. I lived with her still at the time, and then she was just always talking about that every day. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And then one day I went to try, and then I liked it a lot. I was like a year in the gym, and then I wanted to learn more because there were a lot of fascinating things for me in philosophical terms and lifestyle. So I went to a school in Lisbon, and then I graduated there after another year. So this was 2001, I guess. No, sorry. I was 21, not 2001. And then I started working very with that young, making a lot of mistakes, knowing and dealing with a lot of people, because at the time it was like you had to go to gyms to give classes. I was working also in a school where a lot of people came to practice and to also learn and become professionals in that area. So I dealt with a lot of people. So I was very privileged that since a very young age, I had people from all backgrounds, different experiences, older, young ones, just great. And at the time, things were different. It was like marketed, if this is the best word, as yoga, because it was a trend at the time in early 2000s and 2010, stuff like that. And then it started to shift. People started to know more about it, and there was a need of also changing that sort of philosophy in terms of how you will present it to the people. So it became like the rose method. You didn't say just like this is yoga, because this was also, I guess, the principle, not using coach term, because that was never the point, but it was like a high performance, it was like a seed of a high performance method that was there, because it's part of it. If you study and you know what I'm talking about, it makes total sense.
So you basically, so you started off just going to these classes and
Yeah,
learning and doing the practice, and then you
studying.
saw that there was all this philosophy behind it that really resonated with you, and you actually ended up then teaching this method around the
Yeah,
world, didn't you? You were sort of traveling around teaching people, helping people.
yeah.
How'd that come about?
Well, after a while, as you want to learn more, you have to travel to meet people, to make events, to be part of some events. And I did a few in Brazil and also in Argentina and also New York. And the New York event, when it started to happen, I I gave a session there as well. And then in Paris before, we in Paris there was this event where a yearly event we tried to gather all the people that were in Europe and some also in South America to come and exchange experiences, practice. I mean, change influences and all that. You expand your network. It was very interesting, and it was good for me as well because I was part of the organization. So I learned also a few things about events and how you have to find spaces, how you have to coordinate all these people coming from a lot of different countries and all that. And it was great. It was great experience. But I did that for like 3 years, I guess. It was awesome. So in a way, this kind of background gave me a lot of different experiences that I carry with me now to teach what I do. And as this was my base, it still is. So when I work, the idea that I have is that most high performance coaches or peak performance coaches, their base is mental. Of course, you develop habits, this and that. Uh, you have a lot of psychology embedded in the work, but that's that's a different way for me.
Mm.
What I do is I use this knowledge I have of this ancient philosophy, which is a practical one, and that's the base of my work. And on top of that, this you always keep no matter what. On top of that, then you develop the other things, the habits, the consistency, and all the other things associated with coaching. But I have a different base of a lot of, well, I guess most people. I don't believe maybe I'm very wrong, but I don't believe there are many people doing this kind of work like I do.
Well, you said it before previously that it's you sort of bring together all the so it's the physical, the mental, and emotional
Yeah,
aspects. So rather than just focusing on one of them, which it sounds like a lot of coaches do, you're
yeah,
bringing it all together.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think so that so you basically did that for about a decade, it seems like, and then you eventually transitioned to doing your own thing. So I think it was
Yeah.
about 2014 you started with
Mhm.
Manifesto 108, which is sort of your main project even still today. So was that always a plan? Have you always been an entrepreneurial person? Like, did you sort of plan to work and teach this method and build your skill base and your foundation, as you were saying, and then sort of go off and do your own thing, or did it just happen organically? What kind of happened there?
Yeah, I guess it was like a natural process. I didn't put too much thought on it in the beginning or in the first years, but then arriving to that decade of work, and I also changed country at the time. We moved to the Netherlands. Yeah, it was like a combination of factors that that made it happen that way. And somehow, for a while, I wanted to do that, to 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 see for myself, like, not alone, because you are never really alone. Somehow you have support at home with your family or friend or another partner somehow, that, but yeah, alone, at a point you go alone. And it was interesting to, because it's different, because you, mainly if you are used to have or being part of a group, things are easier because you are in the middle of it. And then when you go alone, the level of demand is completely different. So it was interesting also to grow and to learn a lot of things, but at the same time I expanded much more my my knowledge in other areas that I needed. And I had to do a lot of things for myself, like that sort of grind that you have to do your website, you have to do your copy, you have to do your emails, you have to do your social media, you have to do everything somehow. So you
Mm.
are solo, and yeah, you learn a lot of things from that.
So
So
going from a lot of the marketing side and the all that kind of stuff you never thought about before when you were
not so
working
much.
as a teacher. Now
Yeah,
you have to do all that yourself.
yeah. And it was good, of course. It was interesting and very important, because when you do things like that, it somehow has a different value, and also the way you commit with yourself and with people you want to work with, it somehow changes. I cannot say very specifically why, but you feel it's different when you are on your own and you have to make it work.
I believe that. Yeah. I've found that many times myself. When
Yeah,
when it's your own thing, it's your own project. You feel like you've got complete control over it, and there's almost that extra motivation there, I guess, to make it work. But, yeah. So, can you tell us exactly what is Manifesto 108? Like, maybe if you can just give us a bit of a rundown
sure.
of what it is, how you help people.
The name came a bit as being, well, as the name implies, a manifesto is like a statement of what you do. And as we spoke in the beginning, it had all to do with high performance, but in a self-conscious way. Basically, it's important that the people that I work with, they want to become better and they want to become more conscious of themselves and what they do and the environment that's around them. Because only like that you will be able to shift many things on yourself, and then naturally you will influence other people by example. So the manifesto part came from there. And the number 108 is something associated with this ancient philosophy I was talking about. It's like the number one, it's you, it's the individual. You are the one responsible for everything that you do, for yourself, for your actions. And the zero means the, it's like you are in search of perfection. Not that it exists perfection, but improvement. That's a better word. You are looking to improvement, to get to a shape that you master along the way. And then the eight is like you invert a bit the infinite. It's a never
Mm,
ending process. You are always
mm,
learning.
that's cool.
So that's more or less how the what the brand and the name means. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, cool. So, how do you actually help clients? So, let's say I'm an athlete, or
Yeah.
an athlete comes to you, they want to improve their game, they want to improve themselves and function better. Like, what's the sort of, maybe if you could give a quick rundown of the process you take someone through, how do you actually help?
Yeah, it can vary a lot from person to person, of course, because before I'll go back. It's important to know if the person has goals, vision, where you want to go, or if you are a bit lost in the process. And many times you have an idea, but it's not clear. So it's very important that one of the first things, if not the first thing, is that to give you clarity to where you want to go. And then you set objectives, goals in your life, in your profession, and then the framework will develop accordingly. Then it's also important to know what kind of habits you have, just like eating, sleeping, hobbies that you have. How are you with, what are your principles as a person as well? Because let's say you can be, because I'm not interested in, from my experience, I don't put like money as the first thing. You can say, I can say like, okay, you have money to work with me, but then you're an a-hole, you see, as a person. So I will not be interested in working with you because sooner or later it's not going to work because you want something else. So it's important to know who the person is, what are the core values of the person. And sometimes you might be a bit lost. So basically is that you bring awareness to the person, you bring it back like to the base, to down to earth, to know better, and then you develop a relationship, of course, of trust, and that's very important to work with someone. But I would say that those are the first important things to start with, and then of course, depending where you want to go, because some people are very ambitious and others are more slight ambitious, like I'm okay with some stuff, but of course then you have to somehow push them because you have to show them that they can give much more of themselves for themselves. And that's also something important, is that you make the person feel that what's happening, it's for him or for her, not to show to someone or to prove something to someone. It's to prove to yourself, first of all. Then of course you can get motivation or pride into making your wife or your parents proud of you, and that's a good motivator and a good thing to keep in mind. But whatever it is that we are working, it has to come from you first. You are doing it for yourself. And yeah, those are the it's like the beginning of how you start to structure the things. And as I mentioned, and you as well, is to bring that balance of physical, mental, and emotional. Because sometimes you can be, and in athletes this happens a lot, they are physically fit, so the physical aspect for them is not so important because it's their job every day. They have to to work out somehow. So then you probably focus more on the mental and emotional, above all, the emotional. And then it's just a matter of positivity. Because the human being has this natural tendency to slide to what's negative. We all do that at a point. And then is to remind yourself that, look, even if this looks not so good at the moment, what will come out of there is something very good. So it's like that principle of the bad is the seed of good things.
Yeah, I get it.
Basically, that's it to begin with, and then of course there
Yeah,
are many specifics, and they are very tailored to each person's
yeah,
needs.
I can imagine it would be very specific to each person. But I like what you said about how it's got to be self motivation. So you got to be doing things for yourself, because I think a lot of people make the mistake of trying to do things for other people, whether it's
Oh
keeping
yeah,
their parents happy, whether it's trying to appear successful to society or whatever the case may be.
yeah,
That's like That's the worst, because even if you achieve what you're setting out to achieve, if you're doing it for someone else, it's a hollow victory. You
It's
don't
hollow,
really get
exactly.
any
Yeah, it's empty.
satisfaction.
At a point, you will feel that, and then and that's interesting that you mentioned that, because then what happens is that you lower again, because the idea is that when I start working with someone, is that you feel that your curve is always steady. Of course, you have a few bumps on the road. It's that's life. But it's not that thing of you have a peak and then you go down. And then you work, you have a peak and then you again everything. It has to be constant.
Mhm.
It's that
So
principle.
how do you get that constant improvement, even if it's slight? Is it mostly through habits?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that consistency of habits. You do the things even if they seem very simple, you just do them every day or some things every week, but most of the time you are doing them.
Hmm.
That's
Can you
what's
give one or two examples of like what's a habit that you'd
yeah.
encourage a client to do?
For example, it's like morning routine or before going to bed routine. Um, Starting with the morning, you wake up, you were just sleeping, you are relaxed, and it's like I saw a few times in your stories, for example, you read in the morning because in that time of the day, your brain is more open to assimilate. So what you will feed your brain with, it's what your brain gonna retain for the rest of the day. So if you start the morning with positive things like, let's say, gratitude exercise, this can be made in many different ways. uh, you are just grateful for what you have in life. It can be simple stuff, doesn't need to be anything super complicated. Just like it's the mindset, it's that you are being grateful for what you have, for what's happening in your life right now. And even you can do a visualization of something that you want to happen in your day. It's just the way you started. It can vary a bit, but for example, a gratitude exercise or a visualization of positivity for how you want or how you see your day unfolding in front of you, that already changes everything. It can be just 2 minutes sometimes because, oh, I'm in a rush today. Yeah, you are, but 2 minutes, it's fine. You have 2 minutes and you do that. And it's different because if you don't do it, you will feel that something there was missing, or the things are not going as smooth, or you are not approaching situations with the same uh, tranquility, in the sense of you are in control emotionally and mentally. You know what you are doing. You are not letting life happen to you that much.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
at night is a bit similar because when you go to sleep, you should feed your subconscious mind with something positive as well. Can be a project, can be something that you want to do tomorrow or in a year or in a month, whatever. Or just you review your day and it's just feeding yourself with something that is positive, and again that it works for you, because I can give you this and it works, and I can give it to someone else and it's not working. Then you have to somehow tailor to the person's needs, or how the person is approached with that, because some people, for example, that you work with, they like that you are constantly checking on them. Others, they like to just let go. You check
Mm.
with them less regularly, everything is fine. We are all different, but the principle is the same. You should always feed your subconscious mind in the morning and the end of the day with something that is positive and makes you feel good and brings the something that is good feeling out of you somehow. Just as
Mm.
just an example.
Yeah, couldn't
Or
agree more on that. I've probably one of the biggest impact things that I've done for myself is having a solid morning routine,
yeah,
because I find if I do this routine, how I spend that first hour in the day, it's easy to keep that momentum going for the rest of the day. And if you have a good morning, you have a good day. Whereas if you roll out of bed, hit the snooze 5 times, you're checking your phone for text messages, emails, whatever,
yeah,
it's just frazzles your brain. And for the rest of the day, you just feel like a mess. So I totally get that. It's starting off and finishing the day has been powerful for me. But I wanted to ask about so you're coaching a lot of what people consider high performers now, so athletes, creative entrepreneurs, and it was that you sort of mentioned to me previously that that was always a goal of yours to eventually work with some of these professional athletes, and
Yeah.
you were able to achieve that. So I was just curious, what's it like working with these high caliber people? Because you're not like, as we were sort of alluding to at the start of the interview, there's these people are already high performers, but you're sort of taking them to the next level, I guess. So is there any difference working with someone like that who's already close to the peak of their game as opposed to just, I guess, like a regular person? Or is everyone kind of just human at the end of the day? Like, what's your thoughts there?
It's different. The profession that the person you are working with has changes a lot regarding the work and the approach you will have with that person. With athletes, I always wanted to work with football players mainly because I played football for like 10 years when I was young, and it's something that it's a sport that I really like still these days, and I enjoy and see. So when I started to work as a high performance coach, I always had that in mind, and then it happened at a point. So for me, it was great to see how my work has really a very positive effect on these athletes because it works, and that's great. It's a bit hard to explain somehow, but the gratitude and satisfaction that you feel when you see it happening, because what happens, at least with me, is those persons' goals, they become my goals
Mm.
because I want to help them and I'm here for them. So it's like my service to them. I want to serve them the best way I can. So somehow you have this level of connectivity that it's this, you want the same things as they want. And of course, this also helps in your work to make it better. But it's interesting to see, as you mentioned, you already have a guy that is already a professional athlete, but still not at top of his game. And if you go to athletes or football players more specifically that are the best in the world, all of them, for sure, they do some kind of work outside of the football training. You have to, because these days, I think that for like a decade ago, more or less, this started to shift, and these ambitious football players, they're like, no, I want to step up my game, I need something extra. What is that? And today is more clear about what how to find that with so many coaches out there, but it makes a difference.
Mm.
If you go and
Abs-
check a football player that is top, they all have coaches for sure.
yeah, I
And
believe that.
that's there it is. It's the mental and the emotional aspects that in the case of football players you have to develop more, because the physical aspect they have. Of course, you do it in a way, let's say they get the muscles very charged because they accumulate a lot of tension, daily trainings, matches every weekend, traveling, sleeping in hotels, all this, you naturally get tense. And then, of course, you can do physical techniques for them to gain more flexibility and remove that tension from the body. Yeah, but it's more specific. You will focus more on the rest, how they breathe, how they can use specific kind of breathings for situations, pre-match, if they want to obtain focus or concentration, and many other things. And if you are talking about, for example, an entrepreneur or a creative that passes most time of his day or her day sitting on a desk on a computer, physically that person needs something extra.
Hmm.
So depending on the person you work with, you have to give more of this, less of that. adjust. But with football players mainly, in my case, that's what I like the most.
And it's mostly the mental
Because
side.
it's great to see them, because I see them as modern gladiators. You have they are acting in an arena. It's full of people shouting, screaming, paying a ticket to be there, to see to be entertained, and then you have the how can I put this, the extra or the outer playing football player when he's not in action, social media, for example, that can shred your mind in many different levels. Because if well, it's life, we make mistakes all the time. If you make a mistake in the game, then people come to say like, oh, this is your fault, the team took a goal because of you. That's tough. And then you have a lot of people, just, it's a massacre. And you have to build an emotional and mental shield around all the things that are being thrown at you. And in case of this, because they are public figures, in case of public figures like them, this is a big challenge.
Yeah, I believe that.
Exposed in a level that an entrepreneur that is trying to make his life, or starting a business, or even if it's already successful at his business, you don't have the level of exposure as a guy like this has. So that's, just to give you an idea, a very important aspect to work when it comes to football players.
I believe that. And I think it's a good, like, I've always found that in sport, for me in particular, it's always been a mental thing more than a physical thing. Like, I used to do some bike racing, not like professionally or anything, but just sort of weekend races, and always the races I actually won, I knew I was going to win it before I won it, just because I had like that right mental space. And then and sometimes I just knew, like, my mind was just in the wrong place, and like I just couldn't perform. And physically there might not have been much difference, but it was that mental aspect. So I totally get that it's almost as important as the physical side.
Yeah, you have to develop a lot of self-awareness above all, and then you have to be somehow, because we are on the outside, it's easier for us. But if you see, like, if you watch or you put yourself in a more cold or outer perspective, you would say, okay, this is not going to serve you, because maybe you have like a person that is sitting on the couch, doesn't do any physical activity in his life, is just there with the phone on the hand and writing crap about you. Is that going to serve you? Well, in the end, no. If you look at it that way, it's not going to serve you at all. But saying it and realizing that, and living as, when you read something or when something is said about you on a newspaper or whatever, it doesn't affect you. This requires a lot of work. And in a way, it will always affect you, because people don't like bad things are said about themselves. It's not normal. But the way you deal with it, you don't let that things influence you that much. And basically is you focus on your work and on the people that are part of your professional entourage, that you are like, okay, who matters for me? Maybe my coach, the people I work with every day, their opinion, that's what matters. It's not some guy that said something about me. That doesn't help at all. So if you are aware of what you do every day, of your work, of your dedication, with time, this is you overcome these things.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know if in my case it helps with the techniques I use, because we use breathing techniques, we use concentration techniques, and also relaxation techniques, and that reprogram your subconscious mind. So let's say prior to a match, you feed the information to the athlete on the brain, physically and mentally and emotionally, how the feelings will be and aligned in each moment. So you can work very, very specifically on the situation. So the next day when the person wakes up and you go to play, your body is already following the instructions of what you have in the back of your head. Somehow the principle is that it works a bit like that. You have to learn how to feed your subconscious mind with positivity and the kind of self-talk and message that you have and you give to yourself, so that you said it so many times that at a point, what is in your brain, your body is just responding. It's like neurovegetative when you drive. You don't think like, oh, my hands are on the wheel and my feet on the pedal, and now I have to check the radio. Oh, someone is talking with me. You don't think, you just do. Your body doesn't need for you to tell it drive. It knows how to do. So when it gets to that level of neurovegetative, when it's there already, you don't think about it, the body just follows the mind. That's kind of the perfect scenario for you to.
Yeah. And I guess the challenge is that, because I totally believe that what you program your subconscious mind with becomes your automatic behavior. But the problem is, if you don't consciously program your subconscious mind, it's been programmed for you in a negative way. And we see it all the time. People have negative beliefs from childhood that they're not smart enough or they can't do this or whatever. And that's the hard thing, because you got to be deliberate about putting the good stuff in. Otherwise, the weeds just grow unchecked and you have all these negative beliefs. So that must be a challenge
Yeah.
for you.
And what's most interesting for me is to see the result. Is that you see like, okay, after a year, see what happened, how different you are, how better you've become. And this then, well, for a football player, like something like signing for a better club, or it's a big step on your career. So when you see all this happening, it's great. And I feel mainly happy for them because it's working. And they are feeling it's working. So that's incredible. For me, it's priceless.
Mm. Can you give me a specific example? Like, what's the biggest transformation you've seen in someone that you've worked with specifically? Like from where you took them from before when they first came to you to achieving something, or even just like something that just one particular client that you remember. Can you think of any example?
Just one.
I'm sure
I
there's
was
been many.
I was thinking that, for example, I guess prior to the interview, we exchanged a few messages, and I mentioned something like that. People many times they don't share feelings or ideas with you. Sometimes you are a bit in the dark, and you have to, with time and with the trust that comes. But I think one of the things that marked me the most is when something big in the career of that person happened, and then you get like a text and say something saying like, this is also because of you, of what. And then I'm like, yeah, but in a way it's the person that is working. I'm just giving some things that I know. I'm sharing my knowledge and my expertise in this area, but it's incredible. For me, that's like priceless. When you see someone achieving something that is high, or changing a club, or conquering something, and then you receive the message saying that, yeah, it's because of you as well that I'm here. That's incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's probably why you do it. I'd imagine
Yeah.
the feeling of helping people and
And that's the thing. I have this thing of sharing. Long ago, I wrote a blog text in Portuguese. I don't remember even where anymore, but it was about this thing of sharing. Because you can learn something that is very precious or valuable, but if you keep it to yourself, what happens? Yeah, nothing in a way. But if you share it with someone, then you are just letting that important heritage or knowledge or that nugget keep going and getting to more people. And when you share, you also change the vibe that you as a person you send, because I believe that somehow we are sort of antennas, and your vibration, what you send out there, is what comes back to you. This goes both ways, because for example here in Portugal people say, bad things attract bad things. Exactly, because you are tuned in that frequency. But for me it goes the other way. Good things attract good things. So if you have that mentality of sharing knowledge, of just giving what you know, it will come back to you naturally. You don't have to think about it, and you don't have to want it back, because then you cut the natural process. If you give just or serve or share just by the pure pleasure of doing it, because you know you, one way or another, you don't know how, sometimes you helped someone, and that person will also, by the example, help someone else. So it's like keeps going, and sometimes you don't know you were the beginning of that. I mean, the universe sends back stuff.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. You told me a cool story a while ago of where you used to feel a bit insecure, or when you were discussing pricing for your service with potential clients, there was a bit of, you just weren't confident in your value or sort of getting that message across to the client. Whereas today, you're confident in your abilities, like you know the value you deliver. So if you're talking to a prospect and they tell you that they can't pay what you're asking, you actually see that as a good thing, because you
yeah,
know the value that you're delivering. Like you don't think you're too expensive, you just offer a lot of value, and it's that
yeah.
difference between value and price. And I was curious how that mindset shift came about, because I think a lot of people struggle with their value and sort of projecting that. So whether they're a coach or offering a service and they're charging a certain amount, or even if they're in a job as an employee and they don't feel like they're getting paid what they're worth, and they want to be able to ask for that raise. Like, how did that mindset shift come along for you, where you could actually feel like I am worth this, and you're confident in that?
Yeah, and well, it took a few years to be honest, because you, if you are not surrounded sometimes by people who already think like that, because it's said many times that you somehow also are in many aspects similar to the five people you are closest with or surrounded with. Uh, and this is one of the things. I was surrounded by people that knew a lot of stuff, but when it came to finance, in this aspects of valuing yourself for the work you can do, for the things you can deliver, for how you can change someone else's lives, and that's priceless even for the person, because many people, they have that perception, like, what I'm doing now, it changes my life, even what I'm paying is not enough. You have some people like this as well. So it takes it for me, it took a few years to shift that, but at a point you also have to do the opposite. You have to start to, in the other thing as well, you have to live with the opposite to to for change to happen. And with the prices I charged was like that. At a point I was like, oh, I mean, this is not okay. What I can deliver is much more. So at a point I tested, and at a point you were like, no, people will pay. So we're like, yeah. So it was my problem. It was not someone else, because we have that thing of, oh, what's the person gonna think? And then depending on your context or society or country where you live, and what happens also, similar to your service, you go and check like your competition, and you say, okay, these people are charging like prices that are so low. How are you gonna charge like sometimes 5, 6, 10 times more? And yeah, it's possible. Of course, it's possible because you are doing something different. Uh, but yeah, it takes time. Regarding that, I just, if I can give an advice, is that give it a try. Just do it, start doing it. And when someone tells you like, no, oh, that's too much, or and actually that doesn't happen that often. What people say many times, at least with me, was like, oh, I understand what you do. I realize the value we can offer, but right now I cannot pay that.
Mm.
And not just saying, oh, you're expensive.
Mm.
And that's important as well, because you are not being arrogant, you are not being excessively humble as well, because being humble is important, but if you are excessively humble, that will not help you too. You have to know the value of what you have to offer. And when you have completely, when you are completely confident and aware and sure that, okay, what I can do can add a lot of value to this person's life, you give your price and normally the person says it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just it's really just a paradigm that is it's tricky.
Yeah.
We fool ourselves most of the time regarding that financial aspect.
Just sounds like you, yeah, so it just took a few years for you to,
Yeah,
I
it
guess,
took,
come to that realization that
yeah.
this is the value that you're offering and it is worth it.
Because then I understand when people are in an environment or in a city or in a country that, well, everyone that does the same as I do charges that price that is so low. How am I gonna get out of there? And then you get a lot of rejection naturally. But then at a point, you will reach someone that understands what you do and values what you do and knows how important that thing is and how it will improve his or her life. And that person is okay paying you. And that person will not think it's expensive. It thinks it's fair for what you are getting back. And of course, those are the best people that you can work with because also in my case, that's the best for me. Then someone will say to someone else, like, look, I'm doing this, like check it out or try it or whatever. And that's the best way to for you to as well to grow in terms of being like reliable and trustworthy of the service you are delivering.
Do you
'Cause
say no to a lot of clients, like potential clients?
no, I don't. That usually doesn't happen that much. It happened a few times, of course. Like you
Yeah.
see, it's a bit that thing that I was telling you a while ago. Like, yeah, you feel that that person maybe wants to do that, maybe just because it's a trend, or it's not serious, you know? You feel that it's just or a quick fix,
Mm-hmm.
and then no, you can many times say or that want the service you want to provide, but then they want to pay you very low. And I'm
Yeah.
very okay saying no, thank you, I understand. Thanks a lot for reaching out, but at the moment, no, it's not possible. And that's fine because you have to as well. I believe that you have to choose the person you want to work with and the kind
Mm.
of people you want to work with.
I guess it has to be a good fit for them and for you as well. Otherwise, it's just not
Because
going to.
otherwise it will not work. You will be working profession. Of course, you will deliver professionally, but then someone will be missing there. There's a connection there that will not be made. And then in the medium and long term, that shared trust, it's like it doesn't come.
Mm.
Just delaying the inevitable.
Mm. That's
So
interesting.
with some experience and you start to figure out the things. And right in the beginning you can say, no, it's fine. I had a few interviews with people and say, no, yeah, this is not gonna work. And that's okay. Like I don't feel bad. And in those cases I make the person feel like even better if I can say it. So the person, even if she doesn't or he doesn't work with you, it goes with the impression of what you do is good, is serious, It's honest. And maybe, and I don't know if this happened with you, but sometimes people that are not like a good fit to work with you, they will recommend someone else that is.
100%.
That happens.
100%. That's good.
So doesn't mean that it's bad. Sometimes
Yeah.
not
You
working.
always want to leave. You never want to burn the bridge. Always leave on a good note. I
Yeah.
100% believe that.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a bit about Sofa Gamers, which is this sort of side project that you
Yes.
started working on. Because then the reason I wanted to talk about that was because we had a conversation a while ago when you first started doing that, which was, and the reason, I'll let you tell the story, but you wanted to like test and learn new things and new skills, and it's pretty much a similar reason to why I'm doing like this podcast, why I was doing Instagram stuff. So do you want to tell the audience and tell me just what this project is and why you started doing it?
Sure. So Sofa Gamers, it was born of my love for video games, because since a young kid I always enjoyed playing video games. I had a period, some years of my life I didn't, but at a point it came back. So one day I was like, well, maybe I can do something with this to learn new skills. I didn't approach it as a project to make money, at least not so soon. I was like, okay, I can make a few videos, I can go into social media, interact with people, make connections, and see in a different way, like in a more relaxed way, and not um,
Or
this is not
commercially?
my money, or yeah, of commercially, but I made a lot of contacts. I knew a lot of interesting people, and then at a point I did interviews for my YouTube channel. I created a YouTube channel, a website. I went to Twitter, Instagram, and then I started to approach it like a test, a serious test, in the possible way. But I the most interesting part for me probably was the YouTube channel, because I also soon will be starting to do a lot of some courses and videos I want to do for Manifesto. So this was a good platform for me to learn how to edit, how to have the proper material, how to post, how to do this and that, how to share it, how to reach more people. And it was interesting, and to make connections, to know people that have similar interests that you have. And then you discover a lot of interesting people, of a lot of extraordinary human beings. And at the same time, for my real business, it was very, very valuable, because I learned to film, I learned to edit by my own with a lot of with programs, because I had no idea. I had to do research, I had to test and try. I made a lot of mistakes during doing interviews. Once I recorded a full interview. It was super interesting with a grandmother. It's a granny that played video games. It was crazy, and then in the end, I was super excited to start editing, and then there was no sound. I just had image. So everything was like for nothing. So this kind of stuff that are part of the process, trial and error,
Yeah.
all those small things, I already tried a few of them. So it was great. And now when I will do some videos and I will structure courses that I'm doing, especially a meditation course I will be doing in the first quarter of 2019, I already have the knowledge to do a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's somehow 6 months ago, this video part of that project, I kept a lot of things. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
And it's such a good point, because I think it's exactly the reason why I started doing Instagram videos, why I did YouTube videos, why I'm now doing this podcast. It's a way to learn new skills and develop those skills in a low stakes environment where there's not really anything that you're going to lose or that you can stuff up really. Like worst case scenario, yeah, like you lose that interview, which would have sucked. But at least that wasn't like a client who was paying you
Exactly.
$10,000 or something. So you sort of make all these mistakes, get all these learnings when the stakes are low, and then you apply them later on in life. So even for myself, when I was looking back on some of the first videos I was doing and just watching how bad I was at speaking and talking compared to, like, I'm not amazing now, but compared to where I was before, I'm a lot better. So just even looking back on that, that's invaluable, having taken those skills and learnings. So, and yeah, doing it around a fun project that you
Yeah.
love, which is games, is a good way to do it. So was it mostly around videos, interviewing, audience growing? Those were the main sort of tech skills you built.
Yeah, and also interesting to see how the social media, so some social media platforms they work. Because, well, like everything in life, I guess, at a point you realize, yeah, what matters is that you keep consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you post every day or if you make stories every day on IG, yeah, do them every day, no matter what. Something that sometimes seems silly or yeah, but you are sometimes that's the part that me personally, I sometimes I and into with manifesto I'm a bit away from social media because at the moment I'm not interested in that. It has the good part and the not so good part. And the good part is that you see it. If you are consistent, it has a result. You start growing followers and people keep and you interact with people, you make contacts, and that's great. That can lead to a lot of things. The downside for me is that at a point you just it's just like you are completely immersed in that, and it takes a lot of energy from you, a lot. And you know that better than me because you do this for a while now, every day. And yeah, for me it has these two sides. So I don't know in terms of strategy if at a point I prefer to go, let's say, more through email lists instead of to social media. No, of course, be present, but not in that crazy way every day, all the time, putting like 10 or 20 stories every day because it takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can hire someone at a point. That's the best way for me. And they do it for you. Aligned, of course, with what you have to offer. But otherwise, when you get to a point that you have to do all that alone, you have to choose.
Absolutely.
So again, that's kind of sofa gamers to, I'm sorry to interrupt, just to close. It's like, it was interesting to see these two sides unfolding and how at a point it will take a toll. You have to choose where you want to act and be more consistent and go that way, or choose another way. But whatever it is, the way that you choose, the important thing always is to be consistent, to show up and to be there. That's what makes the difference in the end.
Yeah, it's a good point you were saying about where's that point and what's the fine line between working to build this audience or build this project and having something that's just a big distraction. Because I've
Yeah,
definitely found I've sort of struggled with that as well, especially like with doing
yeah,
Instagram, as you said. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of thought, energy, and
yeah,
you start to ask, is this the best place I can put it? Because you've only
yeah,
got a finite amount of energy. So do you want to put it into posting 20 stories a day, or is there something else you could do that's high leverage? And what you're talking about as well, I think, with email is, if we can get real like tactical, I guess, I believe I believe in email a lot because
yeah.
social media comes and goes. We've seen with Facebook and Instagram, eventually you have to start paying to reach your own followers, but email is the one sort of medium that's still a direct access to your
I
customer or direct access to your audience.
Yeah, I believe that because there are a few things. Social media, you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Today it's more like IG, Twitter, Facebook. Things are changing. You don't know what like in 5 years is gonna be the main social media platform, and they are the ones making the rules. While if you have the email, you are in control, and that person gave you his or her email because they want to connect with you. And actually, there's an interesting test I did with this thing also. So for gamers, for me, it's a test as well. I stopped going to social media for like 3 to 4 weeks now. If I go there now and check the followers, if I see that I have the same amount of people that I had when I stopped, that's a good sign, because it's people that really, well, are interested somehow on the things you share. But and we know this, and actually my wife is trying something on IG. It's a platform, I don't remember the name, but it's like you pay a subscription and then they go and they comment on posts. It's like it's doing it for you. All this hard work, this grind, saying that you have to be commenting and going and checking and replying and following and they do it for you. I mean, you tailor it, you choose the messages you want to get, but you see, at the same time, it's fake. It's a bit fake. So social media has this. It's a paradigm, you know. It's not a paradigm, a paradox. Like, yeah, email, no, straightforward.
Yes.
So in my opinion, it is what it is. I go more to email. I prefer that.
Yeah. And yeah, we saw it in the past. There was so many people who built businesses on Facebook fan pages. Like that was their audience and how they monetize their business. But then Facebook introduced the ad spend and changed the algorithm so that you only got so much organic reach, and it literally destroyed people's businesses because they just built it based on someone else's platform, which they had no control over. So yeah, I definitely understand that completely.
You have to do your best to be in control of those things, because it's like what you do with yourself. If you somehow get in control in a pleasant way, you will not have so many surprises coming.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, you alluded to just before about this meditation course that you're working towards in 2019. I was
Yeah.
curious what that was, if you could maybe
Sure.
tell us about
Yeah. So basically, it's like a sort of mini course, just to give you a few lights on the subject. And I felt this almost need of doing this course, or to start with this course online, because there are so much misinformation and mix of what meditation is. As told you about my background in the beginning, the kind of yoga that I teach and that I learned, it has 8 different techniques. And this kind of yoga, just to give you a more broader perspective, it's very naturalistic. So it has more than 5,000 years. It was through observation of nature and the things that surrounded you that things started to happen. So it's like you soak in what's around you, you get inspiration from that, and that's how you pass the message. It's not spiritual or mystical at all. And then it's matriarchal, which means it's non-repressive, it's more sensorial. So you explore more your senses, your awareness, the expansion of your consciousness. And the 8 techniques that you can do, the last one, because the idea is that these 8 techniques, they keep compounding. The previous one prepares you to the next one. And then in the end, you have meditation. Actually, when you start, you will not meditate because you don't know how to meditate. Because meditation is to stop the brain waves. Is when you stop thinking. And this concept is a bit weird for us because in the West, no one teaches us this. And when we are kids. So if you say to someone now, when you will go and learn to meditate, you will stop thinking. What's that? Stop thinking. I cannot stop thinking. The idea is that when you train first concentration using something, you can use, there are 2 basic kinds of concentration techniques. Or you use it visual, use an object, an image, whatever, or you use a sound. And both these can be like physical. Let's say you can hear the sound, or you can reproduce the sound with your mind, whatever, or the image the same. You can close your eyes and picture it or watch it and then close, and it's like a negative thing that stays in your mind. So these are the two basic ones. And then you train, and at a point, what you want to do is to stop the flow of your thoughts, of associations, of memories. And then what happens is that you step up, you go to the intuitional channel, and this is when you meditate. Rawly, in a raw way, trying to explain is a bit like this. And when your consciousness is flowing through intuition, your mind will not influence it. Meaning those things when we want to rationalize or bring logic into the things, that doesn't matter because the channel is different. It's more subtle, it's higher. So this is like one of the first steps that you start to experience when you meditate. So meditation is just thinking at first, concentrate yourself into one thing to saturate your mind. It's like a hammer. You do that, ping, 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 and then at a point you get tired, your mind gets tired because it's like a kid, it's always pulling you. No. If I told you, no, close your eyes and try to picture like a sunset or a full moon or whatever image or a star, yeah, at a point your mind will be like, oh, today I forgot to do this. Oh, tomorrow I have to do it. When I finish this, I have to eat. Your mind is always pulling you because your mind doesn't know to be quiet, to stop. We don't learn that, no one teaches us that. We don't know how to do it, and it's very hard. So when you start to narrow all your thoughts, it's like you have something going like this, and you want it to just like start to go straight. It's a linear process. Then it steps up. You saturate the mind, it stops thinking, then it steps up. And that when the intuition, which it's heritage of every human being, we all have intuition, but it's random. And some people have it more developed than others. But with this training, you develop more intuition. So it will flow more. You start to understand better how that process works. So basically, if you are talking about meditation, you have to start talking about this first. And there's a big misconception when someone gives you a guided visualization or a sort of exercise that makes you close your eyes or even lay down, because to meditate you should be seated, period. Sometimes you can even be standing, but you never lay down to meditate. Otherwise you can fall asleep. And if you asleep, it doesn't work. So to meditate, mainly you sit. So when you close and when you close your eyes and you are being guided by someone, that person is not giving you a meditation. That person is giving you a visualization technique. It can be like reprogramming your subconscious. It can be make you envision a future project, but that's not meditation because you are thinking. Someone is telling you to think a several number of things or to create this and those images in your mind. That's not meditation. That's visualization, which in Portuguese, I don't know if in English this word exists, like mentalization. I don't think so, but it's like that. You are using your mind to create images or to create a picture, like a movie scene of your life of what you want to do. That's something else. And I see a lot of renowned people that work with like top of the tops, and they create, oh, I created this meditation video on YouTube on my channel. Go there and do it, and then you go, dude, that's not meditation. That's a guided visualization for something. It's very good. It's very important, but it's not meditation. Meditation is something else. So there is this big misconception around this.
So what's the difference in outcome between a guided visualization or doing meditation?
Yeah. For example, I will give the example of the practice I teach again. Prior to the meditation or concentration at first, you have a relaxation technique, which basically relaxes your physical body from your feet to your head. This can also, of course, be more specific regarding your needs. And then when your body is completely relaxed, it's like it's ready to give in to something. So your mind is more open for information to enter. And then in that point, you can reprogram your mind more easily. You can do this guided as well. And it will have a much deeper effect, because when you are able to completely relax, your mind, your subconscious mind, will absorb much more information. Sometimes you can even finish the exercise, it happens sometimes, and you don't remember everything, but it stayed there. Because sometimes we can be talking and I say a word and you're like, I heard this somewhere. Or doing things, it's staying there. You are constantly reprogramming your mind to do that. Or you can, more briefly, let's say in the case of a football player as well, he wakes up in the morning, he has the game in the afternoon, he can do a few breathing techniques, and then he does the visualization. He sits and he starts to visualize how he wants the game to go, how he sees himself in specific key moments, acting, what he wants to feel in each moment, the confidence he has, the strength and the power and the potence to keep going and never get tired, blah, 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 blah. You can go through a lot of things, but this is visualization. You can do it alone. That's something else. When you go to work concentration or meditation, that's one thing. You sit, you think in one thing, and you keep hammering at it until your mind gets tired. It's very hard in the beginning. I would say it's the most hard thing to do in this sequence of techniques of the practice. But at the same time, it's a reason that it works better. Because when we are doing this pre-classical yoga, this ancient yoga, everything that you did is to get there. Because the objective is to get a more expanded state of consciousness, hyper consciousness, if we can call it so, which you will understand better yourself, you will know yourself better, you understand the reason of things, but well, that's another level. But to get there, you keep working. If you do a concentration or meditation technique, in the end of a practice, the effect it has, it's much bigger than you just say, okay, now I finished my work day, I got home, I got a tea, I will relax a bit. Okay, now I will sit and I will work my concentration meditation. It works. But it works better if you do it in a proper sequence. But again, what matters is that you do it every day. And if you get the habit of doing, for example, that in the morning and at night, or at least just do it once, it has the effect that you know it has in your life. When you get a routine, it works.
I love it.
Yeah, but it's that, basically.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really interesting. Yeah, meditation is something I've become a lot more interested in.
Yeah.
And that sounds very interesting because it's not mainstream yet, but like you said, there's a lot of people saying like this is meditation, or like everyone's got like a different technique or whatever, and everyone's got their own spin on it. But it'd be interesting to actually have what is, I guess, like genuine meditation based on ancient practices that you've learned. That sounds like it would be valuable.
There are many methods. There are many different philosophies and self-improvement techniques that do meditation really well. But my thing here is like constantly, almost every day now, because it's starting to be a thing, as you said, it's getting more mainstream. I see a lot of people talking about it. Oh, I'm doing my meditation. And then when they describe, it's not meditation. And I'm like, it's a bit hard for me, because as you study and you learn and you teach and you know how it works, it's a bit tough to constantly keep hearing and coming across the same thing. And well, I will throw myself into the subject and see if I can reach someone to talk a bit about that. It's just to make things more clear, and then of course giving you proper techniques, exercises to do, and yeah, for you to feel not just theory but practice as
Do it
well.
as well. I love it. And we'll link all that up, and at the end we can you can share with people where they can find more information about that. But
Thank you.
yeah, just wanted to. We're sort of coming up on the tail end of the interview, and really just had a few more quick questions for you. But just curious to know what's coming up for you, I guess, in the next year or so. Like, we obviously, that meditation course is a big thing that you're working on at the moment. But is there anything else coming up for Mauro in 2019? Any big plans?
2019, basically I want to start with some online courses. That meditation one will be the first one. First, short courses that will give you some consistency in creating positive habits that you can start doing in your life. And then at a point when I'll be able to have a sort of community and people that are interested in the things that I teach, then launch a course that is more deep, that it goes into many different aspects of this practice and of coaching. But it's not structured yet, but in terms of vision, of idea, that's where it will go. Short, small courses in the beginning, and then a bigger one. Probably that bigger one will not be the next year, or if it is, just in the end. But during 2019, I will be launching a few short courses. That's for sure. Because I want to as well develop some, because mainly I'm working more one-on-one at the moment, but there are other things I want to experiment and try and do, because it's something that I want to do. And these online courses, I think they're great to start to reach more people, to start to have a sort of community. And that's a good way to start.
Absolutely. I think you see a lot of people going down that path because, as you said, if you're one-on-one, there's a limit to the hours
Yeah,
in the day of how many people you can impact and help.
yeah.
Whereas if you can kind of scale that with the help of the internet, you can reach a lot more people and potentially help a lot more people. So I totally get that.
Yeah, because the idea
And
and at a point is to like have an event, like in a few years, maybe 5, to have then an event that can gather people from different places, and then but until then, I already need to have a sort of community, mainly a community of people that are interested in making themselves better, in making positive impact in the world, no matter what area they work in, and people that they are genuinely interested in improving themselves for themselves. Because what happens, and I saw this happening a lot, is when you are able to change yourself and you take those changes and those positive aspects with you to everything you do in life, people start to notice. And sometimes they get interested and they talk with you and they want to do the same things as you do. And that's how little by little you start to somehow build like a group of people that are interested in the same things. So that's a bit the way for me. We'll see where that ends.
well, I'll lock in my trip to Lisbon in 2023.
Well, great. Glad to
Well,
hear.
last question really is just, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to find out a bit more about your service that you offer people, if they want to find out about this meditation course that's coming out? I know that's still in the infancy stage, but if they just want to have you on their radar so they can check
Yeah.
in once there's a bit more information released on that, like, what's the best way for people to get in touch?
They can check me on IG, Instagram, Mauro Bex. Um, I'm not very active there, but if someone contacts me, I always reply. And at the moment, that's one of the platforms I can connect with people. My website is being restructured, At the moment, it's just a blog working. People can check some articles that I wrote previously, but at the moment, the best way to probably connect is by Instagram, or if they want to visit the blog as
And
well.
what's the blog?
But soon, it's manifesto108.com/blog. But soon, probably in the beginning of the year, the website will be done because it's stopped. It's just really the blog. For example, if you write manifesto108.com, it's not showing. It's just a blog, really. But a launch page will be soon there, probably in January, with information about the course, and from there on we can connect and see what happens in the future.
Awesome. Well, we'll link up his Instagram account and the website, and once that landing page gets launched, we'll link that up as well. But yeah, thanks so much for chatting to me today, Mauro. Appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday evening. Very generous of you, and I think it's shared a lot of value here today. It's really interesting for me just to get an insight into your mind, because you sort of help people with their mindset and perform better, and that's what I'm always looking to try and do for myself, just sort of get to that next level and improve things. So to be able to pick your brain's been a real pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk with you. Hope that someday soon we can do it again.
Absolutely, we'll have a round two for sure. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and thanks again, Mauro, and I hope that helps. Hope you got a lot of value out of it, and have a great day.
Sure. Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.